Welcome to Perception versus Reality Sports and Culture, where we cover sports from a different angle and bring you topics most podcasts and radio shows will not cover. I'm your host, Rodney870, and welcome my co-hosts, Neely, Mr. Sports IQ, Lemuel, aka Limwood, and Stanley, known on Instagram as Third World 870. Please enjoy this PBR clip and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Schools, because I know some of the people listening to this are more engaged with like UAPB, UCA, and I don't know if you kind of looked those up, but I noticed where UAPB signed 5 Arkansas players, 2 of those players from Pine Bluff. The reason I wanted to highlight that is because one of my biggest issues with UAPB over the last 10 years is we don't recruit Arkansas. UAPB should be, it's a different focus from like a big university. A big university like Arkansas, like Ohio State, Michigan, Florida State, Miami, their fans are gonna come regardless if they win it. The fans are gonna come. They just got that type of support. With UAPB, you're trying to fill the stadium, you're trying to generate revenue, you're trying to build a program. Yeah. Why not do what Arkansas State and UCA programs are doing and build from within? So if we're 5 and 6 at UAPB and you have 40 players on your 80-man roster from Arkansas, guess what? Those parents and family members are still going to come support those kids. They're still going to buy tickets. Yeah. They're still going to buy merchandise. They're still going to come where your program can generate more revenue and over a 5-6 year period build up the program to where you can start winning. You can start developing these players over. Have a 5-year plan for these players. Don't look at them as if they're not playing. They're not playing immediately. Let's say if you take a guy like when I was coming out, I was a guy that Coach Jordan was getting calls from like junior colleges and like from the I think it was a Sun Belt, not the Sun Belt, but what's the name of the conference where UCA used to be in Division II, where Southern Arkansas, Gulf South, yeah. Coach Jordan was getting calls from those schools for me, for partial scholarships, for, some full scholarship. I think it was SAU offered a full, Washita Baptist and some of the other small schools offered like partials. And luckily I got the UAPB offer late in the recruiting that year, but I received a full scholarship from UAPB. But, Coach Jordan was just breaking it down to me like, hey, go to these schools, man. They really develop you. They really take care of you. He didn't want me to go to UAPB because he said UAPB they're not going to develop you. They're only going to use you when you're ready to play. You know what I'm saying? Whatever time that is, whatever year that is. He said these other schools have a 5-year plan for you. And he used to call the Gulf South the baby SEC. He said that's what they called it, the baby SEC. And so with that said, yeah, exactly. And with that said, I think UAPB does a terrible job at building the athletes from the state. Like, and if you're going to recruit from other states, recruit from Memphis, recruit from Louisiana, recruit from Texarkana and nearby Texas, recruit from Missouri, where those parents also can travel down 3 hours, no more than 4, to watch their kid play. You're trying to put 10 to 12,000 bodies in their stadium every home game so you could generate revenue, so you could get more people in the stadium, so you could get more merchandise sales, so you could get more concession sales. So over time, you can pay coaches more. You can pay administrators more. And you can bring in a good coach. You can bring in a good, solid staff where they can build that program. When you recruit Arkansas players, don't just recruit players who you think like, oh, man, I want two-star players. I want the 1-star players. I want this and that. No, recruit the guy that's not even ranked. And tell him, I got a 5-year plan for you. We're going to red shirt you and build you up your first year. Your second year, you're going to be a red shirt freshman. You're going to play scout team, and you're going to continue to learn the offense. By your sophomore year, we hope to have you playing special teams or something like that. And if you do, and then your junior and senior year, you'll be ready to start on offense or defense.
But, man, you make some good points. I really want to touch on this for a moment. Now, I would say devil advocate with Lee Harmon was coach. Now, he'll get some players from St. Louis, and he'll come here and go to work. Now, he knew how to recruit. But now the time has changed. He got some players out of St. Louis. I mean, everywhere. And he had different connections. But different time, different year. I agree with that assessment. I told somebody, if I was hired as UAPB coach, the first thing I would do the first year, not saying I don't care about winning, but the first year I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that my face is shown all around the state. We're going to do all types of, networking all around the state. I asked Carlos Bowie, did he ever see any UAPB coaches come there to the radio when the Sun played? He said he never saw one. See, that's where you have the issue, because that's an area where it has a good high school program. Kids know how to win. The kids may not be talented to go to SEC schools, but you can go in there and you can recruit some of those players, bring them in. Their family is 2 hours away. They'll come see the game. And like you said, there'll be a revenue. So another thing that what I would do is, too, and people are afraid of this every time because it's an HBCU, I'm going to recruit some players that's in Whitehall, just 2 or 3 big linemen that can move, that I can recruit them because they loyal to. That'll bring me a different demographic and a different market to the games, because I'm in the business of making money and filling up them stands. So I want to do that as well. And then another thing I think UAPB needs to do is they need to look outside the box as far as like the coaching hires too, because they keep the one thing I don't like about the SWAC, they get the same coaches and they just rotate. Alcorn State, I believe, they went out. And I'm not saying he has to be white. They went out outside the box and got I forgot where he was from. He was a white coach, and he beat SWAC 2 years in a row. Yep. He was a different type of coach, different style, different techniques, different ways. It wasn't like everybody else's. I think the guy's coaching at Southern Miss or something like that right now.
Liam, went outside. I can remember going to transferring to UCA, like my junior year, and I practiced with UCA for maybe 2 or 3 weeks, and during that time through a summer training camp, you could just tell the difference, man. I had been at UAPB 2 years, and I could just tell the difference in the way they practiced and the way the team worked together and how we worked out, and how they paid attention, how the organization was, how they paid attention to details. I can remember running a slot screen, and at UAPB I would just bubble back, like just pretty much quarterback calls a snap, boom, I bubble back, and I'm 3 yards in the backfield when I catch the ball. At UCA, that coach had me run that drill 20 times in one freaking session to understand, I want you one step back and straight down the line, because when you catch this ball, I want you even with the line of scrimmage, and I want you getting 5 or 6 yards upfield. He said, this play is not for you to catch it 3 yards in the backfield. Now you got to make a man miss. And when you make that man miss, boom, you get a couple yards, you 2 yards downfield. That doesn't help us. But if you take this direct route down the line of scrimmage, you catch that football and you get upfield, you're going to get us 4, 5, 6 every time, and we can work with that. We can work with second and 4, 2nd and 3. And you just little details like that with your coaching staff. And
they get the
go ahead.
You touching on it. I mean, you're saying we have to get some coaches outside. Like, let's get a coach from Henderson that's on the staff of Henderson State. Let's get somebody on the staff of SAU, because they didn't have players in the NFL.
Yep.
They didn't put players in the NFL. And I think that's an issue. But as far as the biggest issue, before we even can get into coaches, what you said at the beginning, is the marketing of the program.
Yep.
UAPB is marketed. They don't go to the schools and market themselves. All across the south of Arkansas, I will be man. I will be recruit. They don't even put effort in recruiting. Yep. So that's why you see that you have seen over the last 5 or 6 years.
Imagine if you get a guy like Skelton, man. Skelton has showed that for the next 2 years, he's going to be a top 2 quarterback in black college football, period. And maybe in football, he probably will be one of the top quarterbacks in football. He showed he has the skill. Imagine him at UAPB. Just imagine a quarterback like that at UAPB. There's no way he should get out the city. Although I understand a lot of students like, hey, I don't want to stay in my hometown. Maybe they don't want to get in trouble, or is things around that might distract them. But a player like that, I will make sure that I will show him that we can lead you. We can take you where you're trying to go. And it's just that's always bothered me with UAPB.
Man, you just hit on what Harmon used to do is, if they were players now in his heyday, when players were really talented and they would leave, he would always be like, well, listen, man, if it don't work out, and he'll recruit them hard. Don't work out, man. Hey, I'm still open, whatever. I know you may want to go out.
Yeah, Harmon recruited me. Yep.
You can come back, man. I got you, whatever. And he would get big time players, come on back. If they'll transfer right on back to UAPB, and he'll have a good squad of players.
If you think about it, Dante Wesley, Greg Wesley, I think even what's the guy name? Courtney Van Buren. I think he transferred from a big school.
Yeah.
You know, you had a lot of players. You think about it, he was able to pull in Brian Thomas Miller, BT Miller. I don't know if you remember him. The guy was a stud coming out of Duncanville, Texas. And this guy was a great receiver. And he was able to recruit him from Duncanville, Texas. You know, Lee Hartman recruited this guy. Lee Hartman convinced Mark Bradley, who eventually transferred to Oklahoma and was a stud at Oklahoma, to come to UAPB. And he would have stayed at UAPB for 4 years had he not tore his ACL. And his dad was like, no, I'm gonna help you rehab it, and I'm gonna take you to Oklahoma as a walk-on. That's Lee Hartman. That's Lee Hartman. Yeah.
So you making the point. I mean, they just don't. They ain't putting the effort in recruiting it that way, and that's the problem. That's my issue with the HBCUs and all the coaches. And I hate that we even got into the SWAC, because ever since then they've been lazy. They don't recruit the players that they should recruit, and they don't take the program seriously. Yep. Man, I remember my first year winning the coach. I went to Bobby Bowden's office. Now, I've never seen nothing so organized in my life. He had all his notes in a file. He had all his game notes filed down. His playbooks in a file, organized by folder. He had all of that. I'm telling you, thorough. And you could go to coaches now and at UAPB. I remember one time Coleman was talking about, oh yeah, my coaches be on vacation. I'm like, vacation? This is spring. It's spring evaluation. How you on vacation?
Exactly.
Like, this is you evaluate and get your board together to see what we're gonna do. We talking about he on vacation.
Exactly.
So
and a problem I had, and I noticed when I was playing, was that coaches, when Mo Forte came in and he brought his staff, we would rather go recruit guys who didn't even play in like states like Texas, who was like maybe the fourth cornerback on their high school team, and things like that, or in Florida or in Ohio, instead of taking this maybe starting defensive back from Star City, or this starting defensive back from Fordyce, or this guy who started for 3 years at Hamburg and made All-State for 3 years, and he maybe he's not as good as the guy from Texas, but in a 5-year program where you're developing him, he can be just as good in that third or fourth year. I'll give you a good example. Keith Scott. Keith Scott wasn't highly touted. He wasn't a highly touted recruit out of high school. Keith Scott walked on to UAPB. His first year, he redshirted. He built himself up, built his body up. His second year, he played scout team, learned the team, learned defense, learned how to play the position, got his skills down. By his third year, he was special teams. He was a third or fourth corner, getting a little clock. By his fourth and fifth year, Keith Scott was a starting corner and competing to be an all-SWAC player. And so that's a guy from Watson Chapel who started for 3-4 years at Watson Chapel, who made All-State maybe 1 or 2 years, who maybe wasn't as good as, let's say, a guy from Texas who's a third corner for a 7-4 team or a 7-3 team that made the playoffs, but he's a homegrown. You know how many butts Keith Scott probably put in that stadium every Saturday? Maybe 20 to 30 people alone would come see him. That's family. Not include the friends and the homeboys and people who grew up with him, said, hey, man, Keith Scott starting this corner, I'm going to the game. So in all, Keith Scott maybe put 200 butts in the seats. Keontae Ento, another one. Keontae, guy come in, didn't play his first year, Proposition 48, came in, redshirted, learned the game, built himself up. By his third or fourth year, he's a starting corner. I think Keontae Ento actually made All-SWAC 1 year. Was a hell of a player. All-State in Arkansas 2-3 years. And he was a guy that he didn't get recruited by UAPB. UAPB did not recruit him. They rather go recruit a guy all the way from Oregon or Washington, bring them down. They have no fans with them. They bring no value to the team. And then they were third or fourth ranked on their own high school team, and they add no value. But you bring a guy in like Kiki Ento bringing 100, 200 people to the game. Period.
Yeah. In the West Helena group too.
I was sitting my ass on a bench. And I would have motherfuckers coming up to me after the game like, man, Rodney, we came to see you, man. What's going on? What's going on? And I have to explain like, man, I'm not really getting the opportunities that I should be afforded, but that's not an excuse. I should work fucking harder. I should work harder. But I end up just thinking like, hey, I'm not going to the NFL. Let me go and focus on industrial technology. Let me get a job. Let me make sure I can take care of my daughter. So I kind of quit football before I got to my 4th or 5th year where I maybe would have been a starter. One more example, Liam. Ryan Watley. Ryan Watley is a perfect example.
Dude,
Perfect example. Perfect example. Ryan Watley was a guy that skinny.
If he ever hit Ryan, I don't mean no harm. But if you ever hear this, bro, I don't mean no harm. In high school, people used to tell me about this dude. I'm like, dude, this dude ain't good. And so when he got to college, man, you talking about somebody with a work ethic.
Yeah.
Dude worked his butt off. And they got him right on bluff, worked his butt off. Man, by the time he got in the starting lineup, dude balled out, man. Dude, that's like the best example.
Ryan, I respect Ryan so much because of that. Yeah. Because when Ryan came in, I remember when Ryan was telling me he was gonna play football. I was like, I had heard of Ryan, like Ryan Wiley make a catch or two. I thought it was maybe like, Ryan was a smart guy. He was like, I always thought he was the guy who was intelligent, who was going to be the next doctor, next lawyer, next scientist, or some shit like that. But when they were saying he was playing football, I'm like, Ryan Wiley. I'm like, okay, let's see what he could do. He walked onto the football field, walked onto the football team. Ryan maybe 6'2", maybe 6'2" at most, 6'1", 6'2". So he's a big guy. He was skinny though. He was skinny and he was kind of knock-kneed, so he wasn't as athletic as maybe somebody like me, somebody like Iceman, somebody like that. But Ryan was a hard fucking worker. And when Ryan walked onto that team, Ryan redshirted his first year. And he worked his body out. He came back in. He came in probably like 175, 6'2", 175. That next year he came back, he was 185, 190. He got a little bulk on him. Then he running scout team. He working his ass off on scout team, doing his thing, out there catching balls, working on his hands, working on his route running. He's not that fast, but he's working on positioning, kind of like a Michael Irvin. So I'm watching that his freshman year. His sophomore year, the last year I played, when Ryan came back in, Ryan was, I guarantee you, like 200, 205, none but muscle, in shape, ready to be that big body receiver. And by the time Ryan hit his 4th and 5th year, Ryan Wiley was a starter. Ryan Wiley was contending for all SWAC honors. Ryan Wiley was a player that was bringing 300-400 people to that stadium. He was bringing in fans. He added value not only in his play on the field, but he added value to the bottom line of that program. You're not a team like Ohio State. Donors are not going to write $2 million checks. You got to get your money the hard way, and you got to build a program like UCA. UCA winning 8 to 10 games a year. Jasper Johnson went up there. Jasper Johnson went to UCA, a 6'2" guy playing safety, 180 pounds. And we all know Jasper Johnson was a hell of an athlete. He was a hell of an athlete. He played baseball. And our senior year, his junior year, he broke out of that shell in football, maybe the 3rd or 4th game of the year, where you knew Jasper was a motherfucking animal, and you knew he was going to perform. Yeah. And his senior year, he pretty much was dominating his senior year. So when he went to UCA, he was a small guy, but they built him up. And by Jasper's sophomore year, he was starting. He started his sophomore, junior, and senior year. He got all conference honors, got a shot at playing professional football. But UCA took this guy and built him up. And you seeing programs like UCA and A-State who took Booker Mays. And this guy wasn't recruited by UAPB. And Booker Mays go to A-State and become a starting receiver. And in a bowl game on national TV scored like 4 or 5 touchdowns. Fresh out of Pine Bluff. Fresh out of Arkansas. If you get Booker Mays in there and you get what's his name, Gurley in there, the safety Gurley that played with Booker at A-State, you putting 300-400 butts in those seats every game just because people know those kids. So that's what I see in UAPB where they're faltering, and I'm watching teams like A-State, UCA, and even some of the smaller Arkansas teams recruit from the state, build from within, and the core day programs from the state, and they build these players up, and they know these players are going to be around 5 years. So they take 2 years and they build them up, and then the next 3 years you performing on the field, you putting butts in the seat. So not only are you an asset and you're adding value on the football field, but you're also an asset when it comes to building a program and the bottom line. And that's what's the key. And UAPB doesn't do that at all. You look at I bet if you look at UAPB roster now, probably 70% of the players are out-of-state players. And I'm not saying you can't recruit out-of-state players. I'm saying if you got a roster of 100 players, you need to have at least 40 to 45 from Arkansas. That's all I'm saying.
And the biggest issue is not even from the winning aspect. It's from a marketing and business aspect, from what they're looking for and what they need. And what you need at university, you got to start making sure that the money is there for the university, for the build a program up, so that you can be able to, get better and win games and do what you want to do as far as building the power and the swag. But the first thing you have to do is understand the economic situation that you have there, and then build up from right there. So, man, that right there is a great point. I've been telling my dad that for years, as far as like the economic, they don't get that.
They don't get that. And that's how they would build. With the economics, Liam, it goes into, okay, now you could take and this is my last point on this, and I'm going to let it go because I could be on the soapbox forever. Let's say you build the economics up, you recruit these players, you have fans coming to the game consistently because maybe you're not winning as much. Maybe you're 5-6, or maybe you're 6-5, and maybe you're 7-4. But they have family members, they have seeds, they have roots within that program, so they're obligated. They feel obligated to say, I got to go support Rodney, even though his ass is sitting on a bench. I got to go support Ryan because, man, I watched this kid go from being not recruited at all to a decent high school player to now he's starting and he's catching 20, 30, 40 balls a year. I got to go watch him. Once you build that money up in that program, you get people donate money. You get people coming back. You get people coming and spending money at your home games. You could do fundraise. You could do all that. Now you could take that money. You could say, okay, instead of me getting a head coach and paying him $100,000 a year, $90,000 a year, I'm going to go and spend $150, $160, $170 on the head coach. And then I'm going to spend $125, $130, $140 on the offense and defensive coordinator. And then I'm going to build people around them. Because if you paying a guy $150,000, you know what? I guarantee you, if you paid $150,000, you could get Keith Scott, who has D1 experience, to come back and be your defensive coordinator. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. But you think Keith Scott coming back for $80,000? Probably hell no. He's probably I think he's at Illinois, Eastern Illinois, or somewhere like that. He's probably getting a salary of 140, 150, 130, just being a defensive back and assistant defensive coordinator. Kyle Williams, you don't think you could get him back to UAPB with $150, $160, $170,000 salary? Yeah, you could get those players back.
You just made it. I just want to make this quick point. That's a good point you're making for our coaching staff. I would think if you want to do head coach, it would be a smart move to go and find one of these coaches. Alonzo Hampton was a volunteer coach at UAPB. He was a head coach at Dumas High School. He was a volunteer coach at UAPB. Alonzo Hampton right now is the defensive backs coach at Florida State University. So,
it is just sad because I remember looking at what Monty Coleman and what Mo Forte was making, and I'm like, shit, I was making more than them when I was 30, as a regional director on a railroad. I was like, why would I go somewhere? I'm thinking these guys making like $200,000-$300,000 a year. And I saw the salaries, and I'm like, shit, I said, hell, I make more money than them. Why would I go back to do that? So you have to pay these coaches, and they would dedicate their life. Like, you think about what UCA coach probably making. I guarantee you they got making at least $180 in Conway. I guarantee you.
Yeah, Bobby Bowden High School is at Pine Bluff making 110.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, they got a good coach. Bobby Bowden making 110. You know what I'm saying? It's just freaking ridiculous. So, I have respect for UAPB. I love UAPB. That's my school. That's the school that put me in the position where I'm at today. But I would love to see the program just turn around. I would love to see them really do something to turn this thing around. And me watching, I'm sitting back for years watching UCA go from being a mediocre team to now they are power in Division I AA. You know, and then I'm watching A-State go from being a team. I remember I laughed when if A-State would have offered me a scholarship and UAPB would offer me a scholarship, Liam, when I was coming out of high school, I would have laughed at A-State because they was going like 1-10 every year. 1-10,
right.
2-9, and now they're going to bowl games. They're winning Sun Belt titles, you know, every year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And UAPB still sitting around where we had our one good year. I think when Chris Wallace was the quarterback and they won the SWAC, and you had Taron Armstead who was playing tackle, and you had Jason Jones. Jason Jones, I want to say him real quick. He's another one. I remember when Jason Jones came in. Jason Jones, a skinny kid that could run lightning fast, but his hands weren't as great as to me as I thought they should have. And Jason, if you hear this, I know you're a freaking beast. But his hands weren't as great. He was fast, but he would drop a few passes. But by the time Jason got to his second year, man, Jason Jones was an absolute monster. He went and worked on his game. He got bigger. Man, dude made all SWAC, all American, got shots at the NFL. Another kid, not recruited from the state of Arkansas. Forest City, he came from Forest City. 6'1" guy, could run a 4.3, 4.4 easily, and that's not even joking. And this guy was not heavily recruited. When Jason Jones got to his sophomore, junior year, and he catching 85-yard touchdowns every game, and he killing the SWAC, and he the best receiver in the SWAC, I guarantee you he put 300 to 400 butts in those seats every weekend, generating revenue off the, adding value on the field with his play, as well as adding value off the field with the people that's coming to watch him play, and the T-shirts being sold and the concessions being sold. That's another good example. He was not recruited at all. So I'm off my soapbox off that shit. If you got anything else to say about UAPB,
you hit it, man. How the other schools have come up, because back when Harvard and UAPB in the glory days, we were about the second best team in Arkansas, and probably one of those years when
NAIA national championship game lost by like 6 points or something like that. So people could shit on Hartman as much as they want to, but Hartman got that stadium built. Hartman came to UAPB. I remember it was nothing for Hartman to win 8-9 games. If Hartman won 8 games, we thought that was a bad season. We was like, man, that's a bad season.
Yeah, alpha death penalty now. Penalty.
Yep. Because Coach Cooley out there, he got NFL players, ex-NFL players playing under my name and your name.
Hey, Coach Harvey probably should have been the guy that probably should have been in the office working. He was getting guys. Think about this, man. He had Switzer's son play quarterback here.
He sure did. Bear Switzer's son. Yep.
Think about the connections. So I think they have a long way to go, man. I think they don't understand the aspect of how to make connections in business and the economics of what's needed to run a doggone business.
There's no way you should go and lose 90 to 10 to North Dakota State. They in the same division you in. There's no way you should lose like that. There's no way in hell. I don't give a damn if this your second coaching. My daughter should be able to coach them to a point where maybe you lose 63 to 14, maybe 63 to 20.
Yeah.
90 to 10, dog. I remember that weekend Canelo was fighting, and Neely family was down because of his daughter's first birthday, and we invited them over to the house. I said, well, they were asking me, what are you doing for the rest of the day? I said, well, I'm going home. I ordered the fight. I'm about to watch this Canelo Triple G fight. And so everybody's like, well, can we come over? We'll bring drinks. I was like, yeah, come on over to the house. So we got like 10, 15 people in the house, and I put 2 TVs in the living room, and on my ESPN Plus, I'm like, man, UAPB playing, let's watch the UAPB game. Man, I turned to that game, and I was so embarrassed by the end of the game. You had people in the house, like, laughing at my school. Like, UAPB is a joke. You had Neely little cousin Day-Day, Jadavion, FaceTiming the score on my TV. The area, like Snapchat the score at the game. It was an embarrassment. And we don't want to see that as Pine Bluff natives and UAPB fans. We don't want to see that. We have to build this program. If you have to send your athletic director, your head coach, and any other administrators to UCA, to A-State, to learn how to build a small program. Don't go to Arkansas, because Arkansas got Tyson and the Walton family and everybody else donate money, so they got the revenue to do it. Go to these smaller schools and ask them why. Yeah, how are you guys being a small school building your program where you win in 7, 8, 9 games a year, and you're doing it from within the state? But that's all I say about that, man. I'm in that subject. And
thank you for listening to the PBR Sports Podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch new episodes and PBR clips. Like our Facebook page and share with your friends if you enjoyed this podcast. As we say in the South, catch you later.